Let's find out.
I don't want to hear any of that.
All right, that is my man Nick on Fox News, in case you're wondering who this is next to me for our drive portion of this review. All right, so let's go take this bad boy for a ride. Now, we don't have the optional rear wheel steering, which is actually pretty cool because, once again, it's both good for parking and for like canyon carving, right? So when you park, it makes your turning circle
It does
radius.
this does feel really like it steers well. So it would have to be amazing for me to see the difference. In that, yeah.
So when you in a slow situation, like when you're parking, the rear wheels can help you back into a parallel spot because they decrease the turning radius. And in a place like this, along PCH1, obviously they help you carve corners better. Now, we don't have that, but what is pretty cool about this car is it's very fast, right? When I give it the beans, 5.1 seconds.
Yeah, it is.
According to Audi.
And it actually sounds pretty good too.
It does sound.
It sounds a little V80. Doesn't sound like a V6 would normally sound.
And did you know that the A7, which we'll also be reviewing, does 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds?
Yeah.
You know why that is?
Because it's heavier.
100 pounds.
Yeah.
It's 100 pounds heavier.
What I think is incredible is these cars increased in weight quite considerably between the last generation and this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get better fuel economy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think that has to do with this new stop-start system, the 48-volt mild hybrid. And what this car does is it doesn't just turn the engine off, for instance, when you come to a stoplight or a stop sign. It can do it at up to 15 miles an hour before you hit that stop sign. So
yep.
It's almost imperceptible. You're driving along and it just turns the engine off, and that's how you get that increase in fuel economy. It's
you know how I always look at it like this, Roman, and it's like when you had hip surgery 20 years ago.
Right.
Well, not you personally,
Okay.
but when someone would have had hip surgery 20 years ago, it would have lasted maybe 15 years.
Yes.
Now it'll last 25 years. So as we get further with technology, things become better.
It's a brave new world, Nick. You're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of this technology is used to improve fuel economy, to improve performance, to basically do things that shouldn't be together, right? You shouldn't get better performance and better fuel economy. The two should be mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
But now you do. Yeah, when you think about the fact that this car is actually glued together aluminum, right? And I'm not joking about that. It is glued together aluminum. That's pretty phenomenal. It's light.
One of the things about glue is it allows you to be a little flexible.
Yeah,
I mean, Jaguar have been doing that for a long time, but these guys have really perfected it. And it's not the glue you buy at Michael's.
No, it's not. It's not Elmer's wood glue.
Right.
Now, you guys probably know that Quattro is all-wheel drive in Audi speak, but this latest version, the Ultra Quattro, is new and very interesting because unlike previous Quattro systems, this car powers the front wheels and not all four wheels continually, and that's what gives it the ability to get 25 mpg combined, because you're not wasting a lot of, in this case, gasoline on friction and of course on powering the rear wheels. But what Audi will tell you is that unlike older versions of front wheel biased all-wheel drive cars, this system actually anticipates when you will need all-wheel drive. So let's say you're going down an icy road and you're turning left. In the old system, what would happen is the front wheels would slip, and then it would send power to the rear wheels, and then the car would lose traction in the rear wheels, and you might end up facing the other way. That was a Haldex system that did that to me once. This Audi system won't do that, according to Audi, because what this car will do is when you're going down that road, it will anticipate that you will need power in the rear wheels, so long before you ever make the turn, the car will instantaneously become all-wheel drive and not front-wheel drive, thus allowing you to safely negotiate that turn without actually losing traction. So let me ask you about all this technology in the car, right? There's some cool things you can do. For instance, you can have like your map up here and your Waze down here if that's something you're into. But one of the things that we have found, because we just recently reviewed the Mercedes-Benz GLE, right?
Yes.
Is sometimes the technology gets in the way of the car instead of helping you actually drive the car. Do you feel that there's too much tech here? Have they gone one step too far?
Yeah, here's the problem. As for our job, we get the car for 24, 48 hours, and it's really hard to understand how someone would use it on a day-to-day life. And initially I'm not too distracted. I mean, I've got to be careful because we're driving through really windy canyons on the California coast that you cannot look at the tech. You have to concentrate on the road. But however, I think they've done some very cool things in this car to not get you so distracted. And one of them is that behind this Gorilla Glass, which is what they're made of, is a little hammer. and that hammer, when you select something, taps the glass to let you know that you've selected something. And that's helpful because you don't have to be physically looking at the glass to know the selection was made. You can glance at it, aim towards it, keep your eyes on the road, and you feel the ping of the hammer on the back of the Gorilla Glass to know you've made your selection.
So I'm looking at the setup right now, right? And I bet you there are at least 50 different choices between all these virtual buttons, not including all the functionality that's built into my steering wheel.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. I mean, is it like almost too much?
There are 400 things in these systems that can be saved as
modified
favorites. Saved as favorites.
That's crazy.
There's 400 things that can be saved as favorites.
So getting the perfect shot of a car going down the highway is a little bit harder than you think, especially when you're trying to do it on an open public road with other cars, because the golden shot, the one that we're always going for, of course, is where there are no other cars in the shot, and that can be tricky. I feel like this car drives big. It's a big car and it drives big. Some cars drive small. You kind of feel like the car shrinks as you start carving, in this case, Pacific Coast Highway 1. This one, you feel its mass. And I think part of that is because it's built on that classic Audi chassis where you've got a transversely mounted engine in the front.
Yeah.
Right, and even though they've taken the 48-volt battery and stuck it in the trunk, the weight is still in the front of the car. So when I go around these corners, I get the sense that the front of the car is pivoting somewhere in front of me and not kind of under my butt. And I think we're going to toss around all our stuff if I go any faster. But you know what I mean? It's not neutral. It's definitely a little nose heavy. And Audis have always done that because they've had all their weight forward as opposed to in the middle or behind you.
This car is not hard to drive, Roman, and I think that's one of the beauties of such a large sedan, that it's actually pretty easy to handle on the road, and it does a really good job. That's why I'm kind of anticipating this rear steering as well, because I think if we get rear steering, we'll actually have it'll be even better to drive, especially on the canyons.
I just switched it to dynamic, which firms everything up.
Yeah.
So that should...
Oh, I can feel it. My abs just got really tight.
Firm your abs up. And it does make a difference. The cool thing about these new systems is that firm actually means firm, right? So now I can feel that this car is much more, well, at home in these tight turns. It no longer leans as much. It's a little bit more responsive when I give it the throttle, and I feel like it's now gotten a little bit smaller as opposed to being kind of in that wallowy comfort zone that I was in before. So that's another cool thing about technology, right? You can make this car whatever you want it to be.
I always wondered why they gave us such a powerful car in a big open road with lots of twisties and curvies, because if anything happens, clearly we were left unsupervised, so it's their fault.
Yes, it's their fault. Now this car also has, of course, level 2 autonomy out of 5. There's 5 levels, and you can take your hands off the wheel, but there's no like set amount of time, just whenever the car feels like you should be driving it instead of it should be driving you. It gives you the little flashing symbol. So it's not quite autonomous, but in stop and go traffic, that's actually very useful. And I do love right there, which is basically Google Earth, right? That's also a really cool feature. Audi's had it for a number of years now, but I love Google Earth. I think it's a really cool way to navigate.
And it's also between your gauges on the instrument panel. As well, you can just pinch and zoom. So I'll show you here. If I lean forward a little bit, you know, just like your cell phone, you can zoom in. We can see the whole of the California coast.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's where we're going, everybody. You can't stop us. You're not our real mom.
You know, we've only been behind the wheel for like a half a day. What's your call on this car? Did Audi, first of all, make it better? Is there too much technology? And would you recommend this car?
First of all, I definitely recommend it because high quality, high reliability, really good tech. The difficulty is I can't answer your first question. Is there too much tech in this car? Because I think everybody is an individual. For me, there is not too much tech, but if you do not do well with high amounts of tech, this car could confuse the heck out of you.
Would I recommend it? I'm going to go with, if you love Audis, you'll love this car because it goes in that kind of Audi minimalist tradition, and taking it to the next logical level. And would I recommend it? Yeah, I'd recommend it. I think it's you know what every Audi is supposed to be in that. It's kind of sleek, sexy, stylish, and with pretty cutting-edge technology. I think Tesla's got the cutting-edge technology, but it's close as you can get with a traditional car company.
And you're right, there's a ton of information here. It even tells us that we are 440 feet above the ocean to our right. So if we fall 440 feet down to the ocean.
You know, I probably need like 10 feet to make a very unpleasant journey. I don't think I need the full 440, but
Part-timer.